Here's the Super 66 update from this weekend. Thursday, Friday, I built a wiring harness for the front half of it. Kind of stopped, didn't do the fenders yet because they're not important to make this run. Got the new switches in, new light switch, new ignition. That switch has two positions, one for the front and rear flood, and then one for road where it just turns on the two front ones and the red light in the back. Don't have the right cloth wrapped wire. I'm gonna wait till this thing gets a full restoration because it'll just get greasy. Someday we'll take this thing all the way down, blast it and paint it. So heat shrunk, tubing on there, put fuse in, loomed it up. This coil was so nasty you couldn't even see it. Got that all cleaned up. It is still wired for positive ground, even though when we got it, somebody had the battery on there flipped. Put the new cables on. I'll put in some of the clips I took of some of the assembly of the pistons. I've already gone through and checked the ring-in gap. Basically push these in, square it up with a piston, take your feeler gauge, measure what the gap is. I like to write them down, and you got track of what each one was. In the case that you got one that was too tight and you needed to file it, your manual usually tells you, if you have a good, the correct manual, it'll tell you what the acceptable gap is. And in this case, we wanted 12 thousandths with a max of 23, and I don't remember what the service was. So far, all of them have been within range, but sometimes when you get these overseas manufactured kits, the quality control is not all there. Before you put these rings in the land, you always want to make sure and check if they're directional. You can see on there that one corner, it's like a 45 instead of a straight edge. You look for that or a dot on top. These actually have a mark on them that says top on them. That makes it easy. Some don't, and those don't typically matter if they're the same both directions. Next up are these rods. You can see that they're offset. This side that it's pushed towards should be directed towards the main bearing. There's a main on either end and then one in the middle on this 4-cylinder. So you'd have every other rod. Let's say that was the front of the engine. You'd have this face towards the front. The next one would face towards the middle. The next one would face towards the middle, and then the next one would face towards the back. I and T manual states that if you're gonna mark them to the cam side, and whoever rebuilt this previously did that correctly, so it's been pretty easy to follow along. Got to double check though, just to make sure. You never know who's in an engine before you. got it positioned where you want? Down?
Yep.
Feels tight in the bore. Are we on?
Mm-hmm.
One to go. 1 through 3 are in. You'll notice that we're clamping the liners so that when you roll the engine over to position the next rod down, you don't risk popping the O-rings loose. So just loosely put a bolt with a couple of washers on to lock them into place. Okay, I've already lubed the bottom and some on the O-rings. They say not to use petroleum because that can make O-rings swell, so use a silicone-based one. But you see people do everything from cooking oil to Crisco. I just have some silicone stuff from Napa. It kind of fits the description. And that's it. Sled number 4 in. Well, we're getting real close to the finish line here. Brother came over today. We assembled the pistons, liners, oil pans back on, oil pumps back together, radiators back in, new belt changed out. All the little details are coming together, just waiting for a cylinder head.